Hello everybody and welcome back to the United Stand. It is the call-in show. I have a feeling on today's show we're going to get some very interesting calls. I'm still annoyed. There's still news coming out. Mordz, you weren't on the forum last night, but what are your thoughts today, waking up the next day after?
I mean, if I wanted to give my real thoughts, we'd be here for ages, I'll be honest. There's so many things that I really want to say, but to be honest, the guys did a good job last night on the forum, properly going in depth, and I think Mark spoke about it well as well. But today's obviously the day to hear about what the fans and everybody else got to say, so I'm interested in hearing the energy. I feel like even though it's Monday morning, everyone's still got a bit.
I'm not joking. I sound like such a saddo for saying this, but I woke up. I'm not joking. At like 3 a.m. and I was like, I was honestly thinking about it, and I thought, what a sad life I live that I'm waking up at 3 a.m. with it in my brain.
United just they've been doing this for what, it's 10 years now that we've just been waking up with just stress because of bad games. But
I don't know why, but we always say it feels like it's the worst it's ever been. It genuinely does feel like it feels bad. It's feeling like Ranić era times right now. Yeah,
I feel like the lowest point, but it probably isn't. But it feels like it.
It feels like it. Ten Hag needs to do something quick, and there's already fans like starting to turn. But have your say. I think you're still Ten Haging, aren't you?
Every day is getting more and more difficult, but
I
am. I'm going to say I am, but it's getting difficult to say,
I'm not joking, but if we can stick by Ten Hag past that game, it was a bad one. I mean, we're still Ten Haging, but if you're not, call up and have your say. If you are, let us know why other people should be getting the debate. But our first caller we have joining us, he's been a regular on the call-in, want to get him on, get his opinion in. We have DZ, who is fully Ten Hag in. Wow. DZ, welcome to the call-in show.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hi, DZ. A lot of people are going to disagree with you for being fully Ten Hag in. A lot of people are going to say, you know, he threw the game yesterday, he started the wrong lineup, he made the wrong substitutions. Explain why you are still fully back in Ten Hag.
Okay, I mean, I predicted 3-0 on the Twitter space for City. I'm not some kind of special person, but I think it was clear as day we were going to lose. I think we're very behind all the top teams. Why I'm Ten Hag in? Every top club in world football looked at his Ajax team and rated his squad. B, Ajax are now in last place, can't get their managerial status down. They look like absolute garbage. C, the club let him down massively. He didn't want half of those players at the club yesterday, let alone starting against the Derby at home, and he stuck with garbage. I tell you what, if you, Beth, could find me a manager tomorrow that could work in this dysfunctional club, that could work with bankers, get the right players in, keep them motivated, not lose their job, I take it in a heartbeat. I don't believe that person exists. So what is the point in sacking the manager now to get Solskjaer in, to get Darren Fletcher in? You know, I know Greg, that's my guy, wants Zidane. Ain't gonna happen, right? So I just don't see what the point is in changing anything today. I mean, he needs to change his lineup, and he needs to change the rotation, and he needs to work on his in-game management. But I don't think he himself right now is the issue. We have a lot bigger issues.
I have to say, I agree with the sense of the fact that you're saying people just want Shannon Nuttall. We could get anybody in tomorrow, sat Ten Hag. It'll be a positive spell, there'll be a bounce, and then it'll just go back to this because of all the other factors at the club that we keep going on and on about that won't change until the ownership changes. But what I would come back to you and say, which is what people say to me when I start, you know, saying we need to stick with this manager, is, well, the Glazers don't pick to play Bruno on the right. The Glazers don't pick to play Evans and Maguire as centre-backs. The Glazers don't choose not to sub Rashford off. That's all decisions by Ten Hag. He made the Amrabat sub, which I feel like cost us a big chunk of that game. I mean, what would you say to people that are frustrated with Erik Ten Hag's decision-making?
Yeah, I mean, it's valid, and everyone, I think, is allowed to have a differing opinion, right? I just think that, you know, the Glazers don't have a footballing structure above any manager, let alone be it Ten Hag, that has a recipe for success like all the other top clubs do. I mean, you watched it with Arsenal firsthand in their little Amazon spoof thing, right? Firsthand, they identified players in key positions, and based off of like injury track record, all of this behind the scenes stuff that, from what we understand based off of media briefs, is Ten Hag doing it by himself. I mean, it's an absolute joke the way that the club is run. And maybe Ten Hag is not good enough, but we were all living a dream last year. Maybe Ten Hag is not good enough for the future, but right now, today, there's not a single person in world football that would succeed in the united hierarchy of football management. I refuse to change that stance. So might as well just keep him.
Yeah,
and yes, Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, so honestly, I completely agree with him. To be fair, I don't think we're gonna get better at this moment, and I think changing managers halfway through a season is I've never really been a fan of that anyway, because you're kind of throwing them in the deep end and hoping that they change something which is already broken. And I think the consistent firing of managers and it not working is kind of it should show the United hierarchy that that's not.
I don't have another manager in me. I genuinely don't.
Honestly,
I don't have it in me.
We should know by now that's not going to work again. We picked the best managers of all time. We picked Jose Mourinho, but arguably one of the best managers that we've ever seen in the Premier League, and it didn't work. So it's like, are we going to go back and try and get another top manager like Zidane, or we're going to try and get a smaller manager who maybe like a De Zerbi or someone? It's not going to work again. So I completely agree. Ten Hag is the man for now. But what I will say is, I mean, I was saying this before the show started, his time's running out.
What you can do is you can say you want to keep Ten Hag, but still hold him accountable for the bad decisions he's making. Like, we can criticise Ten Hag, and I had a big discussion last night. I feel like I went home from here and I was like speaking to my dad about it and you're like talking about him. I mean, you're so frustrated with him, but you can still want him to stay in a job. I mean, I just look at Ten Hag and I think the aura when he first came in
was so good.
And his energy and everything about him was just, he seemed ruthless, he seemed up for it. And now he just looks like he's been United-ified.
It's a different manager to what we saw at Ajax.
It happens every time with each manager, though.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at pictures of managers when they walk in the door or when they work out, have you seen the one of Moyes? He literally aged about 10 years in about a year.
And then he got younger again when he left. But one thing I'll say about Ten Hag is, when we look at what he did at Ajax, it's almost like he's not following the same steps that he was following at Ajax.
Well, he's already spoken about how that's never going to happen. Have you not seen that quote?
No, I'm not seeing it.
He got asked if he would ever play the way he did at Ajax at United. He said never.
Never.
I want to play different football here.
Oh, fair enough.
I'll read the quote out in a second. But DZ, thank you very much for calling in. Really appreciate you. And yeah, thank you. I agree with everything that you were saying there about the ownership and the hierarchy. Yeah. Mario Franco says, has someone thought about the club's environment being absolutely garbage? Players don't suddenly turn bad. Look at how players get better at Madrid. You are correct. Every player that walks through the door eventually gets United-ified. I thought Bruno hadn't done. Recently, he went gone up down that track. Now he's like... It feels like it happens to everyone. Sayomi Coley says, does anyone actually believe Jim Ratcliffe can sort this out with the Glazer present? You don't fight the cancer with 25%, full stop. I mean, that's a different story. There's nothing we can do to stop what's happening with Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Yeah. I think that what I'm choosing to do as a fan, and I understand that if you guys don't want to, of course I wanted the full takeover. Yeah. I would do anything for a full takeover. I'm very uncertain about the Sir Jim thing, but if it happens, I've got hope there that hopefully it's the start of something. And
yeah, you get what you're given, really. Yeah. It's kind of how we're able to work right now.
You've just got to stay hopeful, but it's tough. But let's get the next caller in. Yeah. What I wanted to speak to you about, Mordz, because this is actually what the next caller wants to talk about as well, and okay. I don't think you've seen this quote. And Ten Hag said. Sorry, he got asked in an interview post the derby, he says, when will you be able to play the same football with Manchester United that you showed with Ajax? Ten Hag said, never. We will never play that football because those were different players. This is also not why I came here. We are playing different football than I showed at Ajax because I have to, because I can't play the same way. The players decide how you play. Ajax is very typical, characteristic style of play. With Manchester United, I will always show different football. I did so last year as well. We play much more direct football here because we have the players for that here. And I actually tweeted this back out and I said, I interpret this in a couple of different ways. First way could be, I don't have the players to play the way I did at Ajax. Yeah. Second one could be, when he had the interview with Man United, they spoke about how they demand counter-attacking football, because that's obviously what Manchester United was built on. And third reason is he needed results straight away, so he had to play to the players' advantage. But either or, I know it's disappointed a lot of people. And the next call we have in wants to talk about that a little bit. So Adam, are you with us?
Yeah, I am.
Hi, Adam. I know you had some strong opinions about that Ten Hag quote that I just read out regarding he'll never play that style of football. What were your initial thoughts when you heard that?
I think it's shocking. I think it's honestly a disgrace, if we're being honest, because he made a reputation and a name for himself playing a certain way, and he landed the most difficult and biggest job in the world because of that reputation and that identity. And now he's going to do something completely different, saying that we are never going to see that. That is a disgrace. That's a disgrace and a half, Bet, if we're being honest. Because if I bring you in to teach my kids how to sing, I don't expect you to teach them how to dance. You get the job based on what you promised. This is not the right way to do things. I'm not having it. I'm absolutely not having it. Look, this quote, it might be the end for me, because if he gets sacked, I don't mind. I don't care, because it's not like Ole, because Ole didn't have an identity. He didn't have tactics. He didn't have anything. We were just hoping that we would see something. And I personally wasn't hoping nothing. I was annoyed when he got the job in the first place. But now with Ten Hag, we know what he does and we know what he can do. And he's basically just told us that he's not going to do it. So I'm sorry, mate, but I can't defend you. That is shocking. I don't think I have the words to describe how shocking it is, because look, we can talk about the owners, the Glazers, the this and that, but I need someone to tell me which tactic in world football exists that involves Lindelof, Evans, and Maguire, but does not involve Varane. What is that tactic?
Yeah.
Because that is not different from playing Pogba on the right wing against Liverpool, just like Ole did. Like, we have some very, very easy questions, and I don't think he has good answers to those.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. For me, the reason why that doesn't make sense is because the style of football that he played at Ajax is similar to the style of football that the other top teams, City, Arsenal, that these teams are playing. And that seems like the style of football that wins, a lot of games.
Yeah.
It's all good winning, games here and there. Like United did last season. We won a lot of games, but there were a lot of close games because we weren't playing amazing football. If people actually remember last season, we weren't really playing amazing football. And we were getting a lot of last-minute wins, a lot of one-goal wins and stuff like that. But if you really want to win leagues, if you want to win the big trophies, you want to be a dominant over years, you need to have a consistent style of play which isn't based around a star player, isn't based around someone creating magic and, some Marcus Rashford, like purple patch or whatever you want to call it. You want to create a system that is around a group of players who are all technically gifted, who can all, fill in their part to obviously make the team play well. And that's what Ajax was doing. They didn't really have star players. Van der Beek, who obviously doesn't play now for United.
It's crazy.
That still doesn't make sense. How can he be one of your best players at Ajax and he doesn't even get picked? No, it makes no sense.
His career has completely fallen off a cliff.
Completely fallen off, but a player like him was crucial to Ajax's system. A player like Meres at Ajax, a player like De Jong and all these other players, they weren't like superstar scoring 50 goals a season, but they were crucial to the system.
What I don't get, and I actually think Erik Ten Hag has said this in a snapback because he's annoyed and he's frustrated. I don't know if him saying never is actually something that he genuinely thinks. I mean, I'd love to ask him again if I have the opportunity, but I think it's a snapback because why were you so persistent on getting De Jong, who was crucial to that style of play at Ajax?
That's what I mean. Like, it's like he wants you, but doesn't want to admit that he wants you. Sorry.
Yeah, no, but you know what? The thing is, you can't chase De Jong for an entire summer and then spend 60, 70 million on Casemiro, because you can't think of two players that are so far apart in style.
Yeah.
And yeah, I hear the fact that maybe he snapped, but what he said matches what we are seeing. And if you are a manager whose intentions is to build the team around Bruno and Rashford, you deserve all the smoke that you're getting, because those players are nowhere near good enough. They are shocking. And I just put like a Twitter poll like last week, and I asked people, would you accept a £60 million deal for both of them combined? And like 60% people said yes. And I would, not because it's a good deal, because with Marcus Rashford, it's a political problem on top as being a very, very bad footballer, to be honest. And Bruno is so erratic that it's basically luck, because he gets things less than 50%. So you would have more. You just don't expect. You don't know what to expect. No prediction, no predictability. And if you're trying to build a team, the first thing that you need to put in place is predictability. You know what you're going to get. And the thing is, you need to put players in every position and reduce the margins for errors, because margins for errors tend to accumulate and tend to add up. And Rashford has a very big margin for error, Bruno as well, and many, many other players as well. So you just add that up and you end up with 50% of predictable. You don't know what's going to happen. And what we are seeing is exactly that. And the game against Palace, where we played the second team, he put low risk and low margins for errors type of players. And it made sense, because there was way more predictability in that team. And that's why I think that what he said is matching what we are seeing. It's shocking.
Do you know what's really interesting as well? Obviously, I think De Jong's generally one of the best midfielders in Europe. Like, I think he's absolutely brilliant. And if we would have got De Jong, I think things would have been so much different. I think he was so crucial to the way Erik Ten Hag wanted to play. And I'm not making excuses, because a football club, and a top football club with a proper director of football, would have said, look, we can't get De Jong. Like, it's just not going to happen. But here are 3 other people players that have similar profiles that maybe aren't at the level he is, but could be at that level. And here's 3 other options. The fact that we went and bought Casemiro, who I thought Casemiro was brilliant last year, I'm going to be honest, but the fact we went and bought Casemiro, which wasn't obviously the profile that Ten Hag wanted at the time, he was so hell-bent on De Jong, instead of actually having backup options for De Jong, like a proper sporting director or a sporting department would have, shows how poor the recruitment is as well. And this is what's happened numerous times. If you can't get the manager's top target, we'll just go for another big name that has nothing to do with the actual profile of what the manager wants.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't, his quote, because like you said, he was trying to bring in De Jong, who is one of his players at Ajax. He brought in Anthony, who's one of his players at Ajax. Brought in Martinez, he brought in Onana. If that's not the style you want to play, why are you bringing in so many players that you already wanted?
I know.
It doesn't really add up.
Yeah. That's a good point.
You know what I mean? So it's like you said, it feels like it's a rebuttal, like he's just trying to get at someone.
I feel like in that quote he was hitting back. But Adam, lastly, to kind of finish up the call, you had something else that you wanted to bring up?
Was it? I was told that it was Bruno Rashford, the manager. Just nothing makes sense to me. It's just that was basically it, and that could be an hour-long conversation, to be honest. But I think other people need to speak as well. So
perfect. Yeah. So we got everything in. Thank you very much, Adam, for joining us, and interesting little conversation. Move on. If you want to join the debate, or you disagree with anything we said, make sure you call up. You can hit the link in the Discord to call up the call-in show. But on to the next, Mordz. We'll keep going through because I feel like people want to get their voices out. Usman, Ten Hag to blame for a lot of issues at the club. So very different to what DZ was saying initially when he first came on, and that's what we want. Usman, I know Usman's got some strong opinions. Are you with us?
Hi, how are you, okay, Beth?
I'm good. How are you feeling? Obviously, I've not spoke to you since the derby yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely buzzing, obviously, absolutely elated. I mean, it's absolute shambles, really. Where I was sat as well, the roof was leaking, which just adds insult to injury. Fantastic. Look, for me personally, as I've obviously said in the topic, I think for me, Erik Ten Hag is to blame for the defeat, as he has been for quite a few of the defeats this season. For me personally, he just keeps making the same mistakes. I mean, my biggest issue with any manager is if you're doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome, it's never going to change. In what scenario has that ever been the case where you keep playing the same players?
Definition of insanity.
Exactly. And, I go back to the game, and I'm sure none of us want me to bring this up, but when we lost 7-0 to Liverpool, last season, and then the game after, he played the exact same 11. And his reasoning was, I wanted them to prove me wrong or whatever it may be. For me, that was a disgrace at the time. We lost 7-0. I would have got rid of at least 8 changes, minimum 8 changes. I can't believe that the entire team kept their place. And for me, that set the seed of my issues with Ten Hag. And it's quite clear he's got his favourites within the team. And regardless of how they play, they do not perform. I mean, for me personally, the fact that Marcus Rashford stayed on that pitch yesterday was the biggest disgrace I've seen in recent times. The guy is walking. He's walking in a derby. He's walking, and I feel sorry for Lindelof. A lot of people, including myself, were getting onto Lindelof. Because I was in the stadium, I could quite clearly see why Lindelof was so poor, because he had literally no option on the left wing to pass to. At any given point when he got the ball, there was actually nobody to pass to. Rashford wasn't there, and I think that was more down to Ten Hag than it was for Rashford's inability to give him an option, because the tactical setup for me wasn't right. Obviously, people were saying the first half it was somewhat of a cagey game, it was a close game, whatever it may be. But let's keep it real. City weren't even out of first gear in the first half, and we couldn't even scrape half a decent chance. Granted, some of the players made poor mistakes, but at the end of the day, the buck stops with the manager. Why is he playing Lindelof left back? Delo literally plays left back. Lindelof literally plays right back on the odd occasion. The guy's never played left back in his career. But for all of a sudden, he's playing left back at Manchester United, when you can literally put Delo there and point my right back. At least have him in a remote place that he's somewhat familiar. Bruno Fernandes, why is he playing right wing? If you're not going to play Bruno centrally, do not pick him. Has he got the balls to drop Bruno Fernandes? Absolutely not, because he consistently shoehorns him into the team. Quite clearly, he doesn't want him in the middle of the park for whatever reason. Don't pick him. Scott McTominay. Why the hell is Scott McTominay playing in the 6? after half time when we've got Amrabat. Amrabat, for me, yeah, granted, he wasn't brilliant on the ball, but all in all, he tried his best. He did enough in the first half to keep the door shut, bar the penalty. But he takes Amrabat off. Again, Rashford, why is Rashford staying on? He's got Garnacho on the bench. He brings him on for like 10 minutes. He's got Martial, brings him on for 5 minutes. I'm not saying either of these players are going to change the course of the game, but they can't do worse than what's on the pitch. So for me, Ten Hag has a lot of answers. He's got a lot of things to answer for. At the end of the day, the book always stops to the manager. Yes, people can blame the Glazers all they want, but for me, Ten Hag isn't covering himself in any glory. There's absolutely no style of play. There's absolutely no identity whatsoever. He's come out and said that Rashford is going to start week in, week out, regardless of how he plays. So for me, honestly, Ten Hag, I'm actually sick to death of him. Why is he still picking Rashford? Like, Beth, I don't understand.
No, Usman, I think every single point you made there is so valid, and I feel like that's the same thing that all United fans around the country yesterday, or around the world, were speaking when they were having their debates, whether in your pub, in your bar, in your front room. People would have been having that exact chat that you just had with each other and thinking, why? And I said, I was literally banging my head against the wall after the forum last night, saying I would love just have a sit-down talk with Erik Ten Hag, no cameras in a room, and be like, Erik, why?
What's going on?
Why are you making these decisions? Because it feels suicidal in certain aspects, some of the things he's doing. I mean, Usman, quickly, what I would ask you, if you were like a player on the bench, like, a Hannibal, a Garnacho, a Martial, what would you be thinking right now, seeing these things happen? Also, Højlund as well. He gets subbed off for Rashford, who's been terrible all game. I mean,
it's happened a few times this season as well.
It's discouraging for the rest of the squad, isn't it?
It's absolutely embarrassing. Look, I studied sports psychology at uni. Look, for me personally, it's absolutely pathetic. At the end of the day, right, obviously a lot of our fans, including myself, were very critical of Sancho and obviously the comments he made. But the truth of the matter is, Sancho was right. I'm sorry to say it. Regarding the favouritism, it's so apparent that there's quite clear favourites within the team. It doesn't matter. We saw the same thing under Oli and Bailly. Again, whether you think Bailly is good enough to play for Manchester United or not, there was a period where Bailly made that block that took us top of the league. I don't know if you remember it or not. And then Maguire came back and he was fit, and Bailly literally got benched the game after. Bailly literally put us top of the league and he got benched. And we're seeing the same thing with Ten Hag. Sancho, again, he's been a flop at United. I'm not denying that. But when he came on against Wolves alongside Eriksen, the one is that game, whether you like it or not. And what was his reward? Back on the bench. Who's coming in? Rashford. He's not doing anything. Anthony, not doing anything. And this is my issue with Ten Hag. If these players ahead of Sancho, Pellistri, Garnacho, even Martial were pulling up trees, or Bruno with Mount, for example, if they were pulling up trees, then you can make a case for them and say, no, what? This is why X, Y, and Z starting. But let's be real. They put a graphic on Sky Sports last night, and Rashford's the only attacker that scored for us this bloody season. Maguire and Casemiro and McTominay are top goal scorers. What the hell is going on? You're telling me he can't change that entire front line, and people are asking questions. And as you said, rightfully, if I'm Garnacho, even Garnacho at his tender age, I'm thinking, how the hell is Rashford starting over me? The guy's not running. In that cup game, there was that clip of Garnacho getting tackled, getting up, and running after the ball. I've not seen Rashford do that in 18 months. And he's still playing week in, week out. And the guy's got the audacity, the manager, to say Sancho's not working hard. He might not be working hard in training, whatever. And I'm not saying he is working hard, but don't tell me he's not working hard when you're picking Rashford, who's flipping walking in a derby. Bro, it was raining, torrential rain. There's people coming from X, Y, and Z. Trains are cancelled, X, Y, Z. Fans are coming and to see Rashford walk. Are you taking the piss? And then he's saying Sancho's not working hard. What are the players doing on the pitch? Not one of them was running. Onan is the only guy that covered himself in glory yesterday. And as you mentioned rightfully, why the hell is Hannibal not playing? I keep saying it. Hannibal's had 2 good games this season, right? Back to back. And as soon as X, Y, and Z is fit, they're back in the team. McTominay's done nothing to be in the team. Yes, he scored the goals, but he offers nothing to the team. We all know that. We've been saying it for 4 years. Somehow he's in the team over Mason Mount and Hannibal Medri. How on earth does that make sense? The same manager that wanted to sell him has now got him above both of the players he signed. One of the players that he signed was one from the academy. Like, he's not making any sense. So
yeah, it seems like
I'll be pissed, of course. What is Mount thinking? You bought me for 60 million. I'm on the bench for McTominay. Why is he on the bench for McTominay? It makes no sense. So yeah, absolutely. And also, last thing, Beth, you asked a fantastic question of the day. So props to you. Can Martial and Højlund play together? He said, yeah, they can.
He's not done it since.
Can we see it? Can we flipping see it tonight? Is that okay? For even 10 minutes?
Honestly,
not even 10 minutes.
Honestly, when in the Copenhagen game when they got the number wrong, I thought, oh my God, he's actually listened to what I was saying, and then they changed it. I was like,
God, you're trying something new, but no, absolutely not. Let's keep Rashford on. It doesn't change nothing, and then expects absolute miracles to happen.
Usman, before you go, I just wanted to say, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that in the Newcastle game, Carabao Cup, he changes it, and that second team that plays well again, and then he has no option.
Newcastle game, oh my God.
I mean, you did when you said that nobody worked hard. I mean, Rashford definitely didn't work hard. There were some players that were working hard. They're just simply not good enough.
Yeah.
Like a lot of some players just weren't good enough, but they were working. But Rashford, he's not good enough, and he's not working. It's ridiculous, and he's supposed to be Manchester born and bred, and come through the academy. But Usman, thank you so much, and some amazing points that I'm sure a lot of people will resonate with. So thank you for coming on.
No worries, thank you.
Thank you. But one thing I want to say is that it seems with Ten Hag that his starting lineup seems very reactionary. It's like a player could have a good game and all of a sudden they're in the next game. For example, McTominay. For me, McTominay was never
a good game though. It's just goals.
That's what I mean. Like, McTominay shouldn't, in my opinion, he was never one of Ten Hag. Our starting play for Ten Hag. At the start of the season, we saw it. We saw Bruno, Mount, and Casemiro. And now that we've got Amrabat, outside of Casemiro, Amrabat would probably be starting. But he had a good game, and all of a sudden he's starting in our biggest game of the season. Same with Eriksen. He had a good game against Copenhagen, and all of a sudden he's starting again. I feel like he doesn't actually know what his best team is, and he's doing it big for some players anyway. Like the favouritism thing is true, because for some players it's based off, if you have one good game, you come into the team, and some players it's like, regardless of what happens, you're going to play it anyway. I just find it wild how he spent 60 mil and gave Mount number 7, and he just seems like he's just completely not part of it. But we'll get into it with the next caller. Johnny Two Sweep says, I wish we had owners with the mentality of Florentino Perez. Facts. Do keeps his promises, and most importantly, the players respect him. Also, Beth for CEO. I would get everyone in line, trust me. Trust me on that one. And Stephen says, hi Beth, just wanted to say, the older you get, the more beautiful you become. Hope everyone has an outstanding day. Thank you very much for that. And Johnny Two Sweet says, imagine how tiring my life is. I support Real Madrid and United. I'm healing and hurting at the same time. Also, greetings from Brooklyn. Yeah, I mean, at least you've got a little bit of love in your life with the way Real Madrid is, but you can't support Real Madrid and United. You've got to pick one. Eric Leonard says, Rashford out on the piss last night. What a joke. Interesting. Well, interesting. Players can have a personal life, obviously, but if you're from the Manchester area, you know it's not new with Rashford being out in Manchester. No, Nima says, maybe he's purposely playing the wrong players to make a point. He's playing the players he wanted sold, but the owners didn't sell. He's not doing it to make a point, because his job's on the line at the end of the day. If he wants to keep his job, he's going to do the best to get results for Man United, but it's ridiculous. Anyway, do want to quickly bring up the leaks, and also, we've got an exclusive coming later, so stay tuned for that. We've got an exclusive on maybe why Mason Mount has been not as involved as some people would think, and what's happening behind the scenes at Manchester United. That will be coming on the 8 p.m. show later. Sam doing some great work, as always, digging up behind the scenes. And on the leaks that is in the title of the show, it's coming out from Rob Dawson. He did a really interesting article, and I looked at the article and I thought, that is being briefed from the inside, talking about how the players think that the workload in the week is too much and that they should be focusing on recovery so there's less injuries, and that they're doing too much of intense training sessions throughout the week. I mean, after a derby, already coming out covering your own backs, trying to blame it on Ten Hag's coaching sessions throughout the week. It's just, we've seen it before. To me, that doesn't excuse why you lost a game, because you lost a game because of basics in defending and attacking. Like I mean, I'm sure some of the calls are going to go into it, but if you ever only watched the game, you can see, and when you watch it back, you can see it's the basics of not pressing. It's the basics of following your man. Haaland had 2 free headers in the 6-yard box. You can't blame Onana for conceding 3 goals, because again, Foden had not a free shot, but he scored in the penalty yard in the 6-yard box. So it's the basics of football that we're doing wrong. It's not the recovery. Yes, we do have injuries, but on the pitch, the problem is clearly the players is not playing good enough. You're absolutely right. I just think to try and cover your own back by saying the training sessions are too intense. Fair enough, the training sessions might be intense, and maybe I know Pep Guardiola has previously said they focus more on tactical work in the week and then save energy for the weekend. I get it, you can have your opinions on that, but then to leak it as an excuse as to why we're losing games,
I don't like it, especially after the way them players kind of represented themselves yesterday on the pitch. And as I said, there were certain players that were working hard, but the whole team just wasn't functioning. And I feel like the only player that could walk off the pitch with his head held high was Onana in that game.
Yeah.
And that, I mean,
conceded 3 goals.
And that's, and he conceded 3 goals. But I mean, next caller on, interesting because you just spoke about defensive issues. Yeah. Rock wants to talk about the defence. It's all Bruno and Rashford's fault, but no one wants to blame the defence. Rock, are you with us? I mean, explain. I know what you're saying in the sense our defence has been decimated. A lot of people like to scapegoat certain players. I mean, there was De Gea, then there was Casemiro, there's Bruno, there's Rashford. Like, there's always a scapegoat in the United fan base, and it does seem like Rashford and Bruno are getting a lot of the criticism. I do think both of them deserve criticism, I can't lie, but it is the whole team in general. And you want to talk about the defensive issues, but then a lot of people will tell you, all Manchester United's forwards the whole season, there's only 1 goal between all of them, which is just ridiculous. So explain to me your point of view on this one.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, how are you lot doing? You all good, yeah?
Yeah, we're good, thank you. We're trying our best.
Surviving.
Dude, you know what it is? I've got to clap back against Usman, innit? Because some points, yeah, if you allow me to, innit?
Go.
They're just wrong. They're just wrong because Lindelof playing left back. There's a reason he's playing left back instead of Dalot. It's because he's more defensive, and you know Rashford is doing a cheating position. That's what a position Leao plays. They don't track back. Dalot plays right back because he's more offensive, and you've got Bruno who can work back. So that's one point, yeah. I've got a disgrace from Usman. The second point, he said he ain't seen Rashford running in 18 months. I saw Rashford run and scored 30 goals last year. So what's he talking about, man? You know what I mean?
What I would say on that, Rock, is what are your opinions on basically substituting actually having a left back in terms of Reguilon to benefit Rashford playing on the last man and not getting back? Like, sure, like Ten Hag's acting like Rashford's like Lionel Messi or something, or prime CR7. Like, he's not delivering. So I mean, I think it's detrimental to the team, to be honest.
Yeah, I hear that. But you got to think about with our injuries, right? We can't play around with injuries. You can't just bring Reguilon in in 1 game and he's going to get injured again. So he's clearly managing the squad. And also, when it comes to Rashford, yeah, if you take out Rashford from that team and you play Garnacho, if people are really honest with themselves, is he ready to start scoring goals? He's not ready. And we've seen it at the start of the season. We saw it in Copenhagen. He had a carbon copy chance of Rashford's one like 10 minutes earlier. He done the same thing as Rashford. So, and we know Rashford can score, so that's why he's there.
What about the thoughts of Martial on that side?
Sorry, say again?
What about people who say Martial should play on that side?
Martial was left wing.
Yeah, he's played there quite a lot.
Yeah, he played there like 5-6 years ago.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? He scored 17 goals as a striker in under Ole. He hasn't played left wing in ages, and we can't let him run because you know he's going to pull a hammy or something. But with Bruno as well, yeah, people saying take out Bruno and Rashford, but who are you going to replace them with? Who's actually going to deliver? We're not a team at the top of the league who can take a chance of rotating the team. We have to play players who we think are gonna give us the results. And we've only scraped these results, but we got the results with Bruno and Rashford playing. I'm not saying Rashford has played amazing this season. I hear that, but there's not good enough replacements yet. You still have to bring Garnacho in slowly. Do you know what I mean? And with that defense, you're right. It's been decimated, and people don't want to look at it. People are asking for a playing style. Yeah, I'll tell you what the playing style was. The whole of last season, we saw when the fullbacks got the ball, whatever side it was on, Varane would go further. He'd run further beyond the fullback to make an option. The same with Martinez. Johnny Evans said Ten Hag asked him to do that in a post-match interview at Burnley. We can clearly see that Maguire and Evans can't do that. So I don't know what style they want us to play when we can't build from the back. We got Onana in to build from the back with Varane and Martinez, and now we're playing Maguire and Evans, and that's on the board. You can't, even if we have injuries, every team has injuries, you can't have our options being Maguire and Evans. It's disgraceful, and this agenda against Ten Hag. Like, do people forget what he done last season with the squad? And he's got ongoing situations all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the whole thought process of Rashford and Bruno do have more ability to win games than other players, but I've said this on the forum one time, we shouldn't be relying on our best players to win us our games. No big team or no good team does that anymore. They don't rely. You don't see City just relying on De Bruyne to get you goals. You can have Bernardo Silva who goes through patches of winning them games. Gundogan was doing it. Grealish had done it before. Foden's pulled up in big games. And obviously Haaland, Mahrez in the past, Sterling in the past. We've gone past the time of having one or two superstar players that will win you the game. You want to have a team that where you've got a bunch of maybe like 4 or 5 players who are all good enough to be able to win you games. And you're playing football where you're not looking at for example, someone like Bruno. I feel like when Bruno gets a ball, he's looking and he's thinking, how can I score? How can I either get us a goal or get an assist straight away? Whereas when you look at someone like Bernardo Silva, when he gets a ball, he's thinking, what's the plan? Where am I supposed to go right now with this ball? Where should the ball go to? What player should I pass it to? What's the next step in the plan to get the goal? Whereas Bruno's getting the ball and he's straight away thinking, oh, what can I do to win us the game? That's not how you win leagues. That's not how you win consistently over and over again. You might get the odd win here and there, like in the Burnley game and whatnot, or other games where he's got assists and goals, but that's not going to be consistent for us to be able to have long-term success. And it's the same with Rashford. I don't feel like when Rashford gets the ball, he's thinking, what is the plan for us to get the goal? I feel like he's thinking, what can I do to get me a goal, or what can I do to get me assist because I'm one of the best players on the pitch? That to me isn't going to be able to win us a lot of games over the season.
I also wanted to just quickly point out as well before you reply to that is what would you say to people who said, well, we had our best game of the season without Bruno and Rashford in the cup against Palace?
But Palace, come on, now, Palace didn't even play their first team.
They had 5. They had 5 of the same players playing in the league game against us.
But wait, Palace?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the first game.
Who was missing? Because I'm pretty sure they didn't have Joaquin Anderson and Mark Gahey playing, right?
No, yeah, they didn't.
Oh, come on, man. That's your 2 centre-backs.
I know, right, okay. The team was poorer, but it still was our best game of the season. I'm just playing devil's advocate with when we played better football without them in the team. I'm a big fan of Bruno, everybody knows that, but that's the argument people come back with. So what would you say to that? Because you're saying that, we've got to play our best team, but realistically they're not delivering.
Yeah.
No, I 100% hear it. I do get the points, innit? But my point is that we don't have the personnel on the bench who can deliver, who we know can deliver, and we're not in a stage yet where we can afford to rotate and then maybe drop points. We need points every single game, and I would argue, our best game wasn't Crystal Palace. I would even say it's the Arsenal defeat, the 3-1 defeat. I think that's our best game because Onana played well for us. He played so well for us that game, and we actually had a game plan. We knew what we was doing. So that Palace game was not our best game. You can see with Rashford when he scored that goal, that was our best game. You know what I mean?
But at what point do you say, okay, we're getting to the point now where we're getting pretty late into the season now. We're losing a lot of games. We're still playing the best players, hoping that they're going to win us some of these games. Look, we're 10 games in now. We've lost 5. None of our attacking players. I mean, Rashford's got, 1 goal or something? A couple goals or maybe a couple assists. Bruno's got maybe a couple goals, a couple assists. It's going to get to the point where Ten Hag's going to have to look at his team and think, you guys are not actually doing it for us. I know you're my best players, but you're not doing it for us now, and it's getting late into the season. His job's on the line. Everyone's looking at him now and saying that obviously he's not perfect. He's definitely not. He's not can hide from what he's done. But he's got to start looking at his players and think, you know what? I get it, you are our best players, but we're consistently losing games with you on the pitch. I have to make tough decisions. And in my opinion, it shouldn't even be a tough decision because we've seen Grealish hold the bench for a whole season at City. He's a £100 million player. We've seen Mourinho drop Hazard when he wasn't playing the way he wanted to play. No player is bigger than the club. So it doesn't matter how much money you earn or how good you think you are, everyone is capable of holding the bench. So it doesn't matter how good you are. If you're consistently not playing the way how Ten Hag, or not even playing as good, but putting in the effort. If you're putting in 110% and you're not playing well, at least you can see that, you know what, he's trying. Maybe there's something wrong with tactics, but if he's trying, it's cool. He's not even trying, which is what makes it frustrating.
It's like to you, man. Is the midfield and striker like the main problem? Because in my opinion, it's the defence. If we can't play out from the back, then we can't do anything. Do you know what I mean? You can't just give it to the midfield and strikers and expect it all to be Gucci. Do you know what I mean?
Our defence isn't there.
we're gonna have to move on, but I think you made some good points. And what I would say back on that is, yes, the defence has been really poor, but also in the final third we lose the ball so often. Our attacking players look like they have no idea, and at the end of the day, one goal from all of your attacking players is just it's just not acceptable. But Rock, thank you so much for calling up, and hopefully speak to you again soon. Average Joe 001, we need a complete overhaul. Unfortunately, the Glazers are too cheap, so this rotten attitude will just spread to new players. Soham says Plessy's been good, favouritism over merit. He wasn't even in the squad against City. Dan Brown says Arsenal won 5-0, missing 5 key players. Brighton's done it, Newcastle's done it. If Sancho and Donny was playing week in week out like that, we'd all go mad. It's a point. Like, if other players that didn't have them names having them performances, people would have a huge issue with it. Yeah. There are all the super chats up to now. I want to also talk about, Soham says the call though was Rashford PR. Everyone can have different opinions, guys. Everyone can have different opinions. And, you know, it's about taking on other people's points. I thought Rock made such a good point about Lindelof playing left back. Yeah. Because I hadn't thought about that, and it makes sense now. But I want to talk about how much of a loss Martinez and Luke Shaw are on that left-hand side. It's huge.
I feel like the injury, you can obviously, the defence isn't good, but these are definitely not his defenders that he wants to pick from. No way. I said to one of my friends yesterday, because he was obviously defending Ten Hag, and I was saying, look, take every single player at the club right now. How many of those players would Ten Hag pick if he had a choice? Like, forget the fact that they already play for United. Other than the players that he obviously brought in, how many of those players would Ten Hag pick from that list and say, I want him? I don't think he's picking Maguire. I don't think he's picking Lindelof. I don't think he's picking Johnny Evans. Like, he's having to play with these players because he literally has to. And like Martinez was one of our best players this season, in my opinion. And he is crucial to the way our Ten Hag wants to play, clearly, because he picked him. He bought him at Ajax and he brought him again here. And I think Luke Shaw, again, one of our best players. He's been at the club for a very long time, but I feel like he's definitely developed over the past few years anyway. So that is a huge loss. And the way our Luke Shaw and Rashford used to link up was amazing.
The way Martinez and Luke Shaw progress into the midfield as well. It's like we lose so much from our build-up play, but you know what? Don't make excuses. Other top teams get injuries and they deal with it. But I mean, let's bring on our next caller. It's flying by this show. It's flying by. James, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, thank you so much for coming on. You're saying that it's the same thing happening every week. I'm assuming you want Erik Ten Hag to change things. What would you change if you were the manager?
Same thing every week, you know, and we're always arguing about the same things or complaining about the same things. You know, Rashford not doing enough, Bruno playing bad, you know, Erik Ten Hag not having the right players that he wants. And it's the same thing every week. And I think I'd rather have worse players on the pitch that are trying hard versus good players on the pitch that aren't trying their hardest.
Interesting point.
I agree. I think, I always refer back to Ajax, just because that's the only real big example that we have of Ten Hag. And you look at the quality of plays that they had compared to the quality of plays that we have at United. I think that Ten Hag's biggest signing was 20 million. I think that was for Anthony. So the ability of some of their players, they might not have had like a Rashford ability or like a Bruno ability, but you could see every single game that they were trying and they were playing to the system that he was obviously telling them to play, and that's why they ended up getting, having them runs in the Champions League and winning the league. But 100%, I agree. The players this week are just, not this week. In this United team are just not, putting in that effort.
I mean, sorry, go on.
Sorry, it's like the same thing again. Is this really annoys me? We go 1-0 down, right, to that penalty. We go 1-0 down, and immediately you can tell from kickoff, it's just straight away we're no longer there. Like, we're literally out of the game. Like, Bruno got the ball straight from kickoff, and he passes it, and it zooms in. He just looks like we're 7-0 down already. We're just giving up so soon. You know, one goal that I thought we looked like, we had good possession the first 10 minutes. You know, we were carrying the ball around well. You know, if there were no options, we were going back. We were playing decent football. But then we concede that goal, and it's just, everything's in the bin now. It's just, we need to just, hit and hope.
I completely agree. Mentality is a huge, huge issue, and you could see the shift. I even thought it 1-0 down. Like, you are still in that game. Keep it 1-0. last 10 minutes, try and get an equaliser. That's where you're at against City. And, you know, if we could have got a draw out of it, that would have been a very, very good point for us. But as soon as that penalty was given, it felt like the game was over. For the fans in the stadium, City knew. Like, that's the frustrating thing, and you make a good point on that. I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on Mason Mount? Because obviously, number 7, 60 mil. Why is Ten Hag not utilising him?
It's a bit like the Ollie van der Beek situation, in my opinion, right? It's like you've brought in a decent player, you've said to him, right, you're going to be a big role. Obviously, he's got the big number 7, right, big number for Manchester United. And then he's not doing anything with him. And I think he could really do a job for Manchester United, better than Bruno at the moment. I'd like to see Eriksen and Mount in the midfield, actually. I think those two. I don't know why. I just think those two would be well together. But I don't know why. I don't think anyone really knows why he's not playing Mount when he should be. I think him and Højlund could have a good connection with each other. He's younger. He's not young, but you know what I mean. He has the opportunity and he has the ability to really create chances for Manchester United. And I think in that Manchester derby, it would have been a good start. I think he would have brought a lot of energy into the starting lineup. Obviously, it's his first derby, so he's looking to impress. And same with Højlund, his first derby, he's looking to impress. And yeah, he gave away a penalty. It's not a penalty, in my opinion. Rodri's throwing himself down like a big baby. But, Højlund kept trying till he came off. I think Mount was the same. He came on and he tried his hardest, even though everyone else around him was just down in the dumps. And that's the main problem at the moment, Beth, is that you can, start these players that want to make a good impact because they're new to Manchester United. But when everyone else around them is just, the press that we've conceded, you're going to be like, I'm ready to go on, Manchester derby, I'm looking to impress. This is my moment, right? Number 7 for Manchester United, this is my moment. And you go on and you look at Bruno and you kind of ask him something, and you just go, I don't know, I don't care.
I feel what you're talking about. I think it was so stark when that game when Hannibal came on and we were like 3-1 down. We were 3-0 down to Brighton, and Hannibal came on, and he literally was so obvious when he came on. He was the only one that cared, and it kind of showed everybody else up. And I think yesterday, the heads drop, and that's a big issue that we've had all season.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it literally seems to always come down to either Bruno or Rashford for some reason, but because Mount is naturally a player who plays a lot further forward, and Bruno does occupy that position. When Ten Hag is picking a team, he knows deeper lying he's going to be playing either Casemiro or Amrabat, maybe McTominay.
Surely he had a plan for Mount, though.
That's what I mean. It's like I feel like he actually has too many players in midfield.
He didn't just think, I want Mount, and then he got everything. I thought, oh God, what am I going to do with him? He must have known a plan for him.
Yeah, I guess that. I mean, is that up to him, or is that up again higher up? Because he's not. I know he's not obviously the only person bringing in players. So the fact that we have so many midfielders means that there must be some kind of poor communication as to who he wants and who is going to be there going forward. Because we still got Kobe Mainoo, who really should be finding some time in the team. He's another midfielder to come in, and we've got Hannibal, he's another midfielder. So it just feels like we've got too many players right now. And even though Mount is supposed to be one of our key signings, he doesn't really have a space because there's just not people in his position right now.
Yeah.
Well, Beth said something earlier. You said something earlier. You said they were talking about Ten Hag, and you said, he's the one that picks the teams. The owners don't pick the starting 11. The owners don't pick the tactics, right? So it's like, maybe he's not got the players he wanted, but a good manager is able to adapt, right? A good manager's go, okay, right, I've not got the players I've wanted. I've got Mount, he's good. I've got Casemiro, he's good. Bruno and Rashford are good on their day. I've got these players that are good. How can I adapt this squad to fit around the people that we have? They're not who I wanted, but I'm going to try fix it. And, you have that saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I feel Erik Ten Hag saying is it's broken, I won't fix it. Genuinely, I feel like he has a squad that can do well. I think the squad we have when we're at our full fitness, easily top 4, right? When we have a couple injuries, yes, it sets us back. But, at the end of the day, the board don't pick the team, the starting 11. And Amrabat yesterday, coming off, messed us up completely. We conceded in 2 minutes.
Yeah, and it's strange to me that Erik Ten Hag's reply when he was asked about that was, I thought we needed to go more offensive, which is why we made that change. I'm like, you're still in the game at 1-0. Why would you go that early?
We're going to be defending for literally 80% of the game, and you lower our defensive capabilities to bring an attacking player. What do you think is going to happen?
It was a big red flag, that reply. But look, I thought you made some great points, and you are correct. Things do need to change. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Patrick says, just pick one style and stick with it, sort out the players who are not good enough and play like that. Arteta did it, even Pep during the first season at City. Players are not buying this style. Interesting stuff. Next caller, Cade, talking about why Manchester United can't control games and you're putting this down to the midfield. I mean, what did you think about the first half midfield yesterday of Amrabat, Eriksen and McTominay?
Hey, thanks for having me on. You know, the way that Ten Hag set that team up yesterday, it's obvious that we were looking to defend, try to keep a 0-0 for as long as we could, or at least them not scoring. When I'm, that penalty that takes us 1-0 down, it's unfortunate. I mean, but you got to just accept it and move on because we can't control it. Amrabat, he did well defending the first half. When he's come off and we put McTominay back there, and it's McTominay and Eriksen that are the 6 and the 8, we're not tracking runners. I mean, that second goal, the reason Johnny Evans has left Erling Haaland wide open at the far post is because he's come in to defend Rodri, and it's Eriksen's runner. The third goal, Rodri.
I agree. I thought the centre-backs weren't really to blame at all. I know a lot of people talk about Maguire and Evans, but I thought they did well yesterday, to be honest.
Yeah, they didn't do too bad at all. That third goal where Rodri's taking that shot, I mean, Eriksen and McTominay, the two closest players. It's been a running theme for years in this team that we just, that's why last season all of our success was predicated off of that back five. I mean, Casemiro, let's be honest, he's really done the job of two players and as just one role for many games. But when you're up against that kind of quality like Man City, I mean, it's where those details, those fine margins, they're just going to pick us apart. We just don't have the midfield personnel to go toe-to-toe with them. And that's why we were lined up the way we were. I hate seeing Bruno at the right wing, and I got a lot of opinions on him, how much he turns the ball over for somebody that's the captain. I mean, the reason we don't have patterns of play is because we don't take care of the ball. I'm seeing flicks from Bruno and Rashford at half field, and they haven't even scanned what's around them. We just don't have the midfield personnel. You look like who's come.
Kate, sorry, you think about the amount of midfield. I agree with you. We've not got top level. Like you don't have anyone who says I am on that team sheet because I'm that good. Just you can look all over the top four in the league and look at players that do demand them starting spots at their clubs. I've said at the moment we've got a lot of players in the midfield positions, but I feel like we've got an array of averageness. We've not got anyone at top level, so it's hard to kind of pick out of them. I mean, I know we spoke about Mount a lot, so I'll just quickly touch on this, but 60 mil, and you think how desperate we are for a centre-back, and we prioritise Mount. I mean, how much of a mistake is that? Because I like Mount, but how much of a mistake is that, do you think?
Mount, I think, is a 10, and it looks like Eric's not picking him because he can't do the 8 role. I mean, the reason Eriksen can do it is because he's he can pass with both feet so well. Mount just, he's just more of a 10. He doesn't have the physicality to be an 8. You really said it really well right there that we have a lot of kind of averageness and not specialty roles. Like, Casemiro can be that 6 and Amrabat can too, where they're a destroyer, they break up play. But like our only 8 really is Eriksen, and Eriksen was never an 8 to begin with. He just has the passing prowess to be one.
We are massively missing a technically gifted box-to-box midfielder.
Yeah, and I think that's why Ten Hag wanted Frankie de Jong so bad, and he can also carry the ball too. And then just to wrap up my call, Rashford and Bruno, I mean, I see a lot of people getting on them. I do want to point out, I heard somebody else bring this up, not having Luke Shaw for Marcus Rashford it's a huge loss for him because so much of his game is just being direct. And I think he's obviously been given the license by the coach to do that. When you don't have Luke Shaw overlapping him to take that other defender, so it can be a one-on-one for Marcus, it kills his game a lot. But the body language, the head dropping, that kind of stuff's unacceptable, and it drives me mad that the manager won't sub him off. It makes me think that he can't sub him off. That you notice that it's always the 85th minute when he comes off. Like I just refuse to believe that Erik Ten Hag, who Pep Guardiola would hire as an assistant coach, that he doesn't see these things. It makes me think that they're.
Well, I think he doesn't, Cade, because he has subbed Rashford off before. He subbed him off at the 62nd minute against Brentford. So he has subbed him before. I think he's getting a lot of things wrong, to be honest with you, and I think he needs to to neglect the stubbornness that he's been carrying with him. But Cade, thank you so much for calling up. Have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you, thank you. I mean, one thing I'll say about, I think you're perfectly right about the midfield is we've got a lot of players who need, or they specialise in one thing, but it kind of lacks in the other departments. So you got someone like Casemiro who he's got his obviously he's good at being in the right positioning and stuff like that, but when it comes, he doesn't have any legs, so he needs to have another midfielder next to him that can cover for his lack of being able to run and follow runners. Same with Eriksen.
the same.
And literally the same. And then
Eriksen
McTominay
can pass to whoever. He's so technically gifted on the ball, but he's got no physicality.
No physicality, and that's literally the reason why we conceded those 2 goals, because Eriksen left his runners and they both made it into the box.
It was the reason we conceded against Arsenal as well.
Yeah.
Even though we created that brilliant goal for Rashford.
Yeah, so I think it's a case of having good players who are really good at one thing, but they lack in something else, and that's not what you want in midfield. You want to have a player who can cover both sides of their game, whether it's offensively and defensively.
It's like Bruno, he's so good at creating chances and seeing the final ball, but he does lose it often. Like there's so many.
But Bruno does press, to be fair. I do think Bruno does press.
No, he's got energy. He does, but he's not cohesive enough with the rest of the team. Yeah. There's so much you can go into. PJ says Bruno and Rashford need to be dropped for us to win. I don't like the fact they get grouped together, going to be honest. I say that all the time, but I can understand why people do it.
I think they should.
Because they're different players.
They're different players, but they're both doing the same thing wrong.
They're both, I suppose they're both seen as the undroppable in Ten Hag's eyes.
They're the 2 best players, and they're the 2 players who were supposed to be playing the best.
I don't think Rashford's one of our best players. I think Bruno is.
Who's the second best player?
Martinez.
Martinez isn't playing, innit? So the players that are on the pitch, they're the 2 best players.
I think Luke Shaw is excellent.
Yeah, but I mean, the players who are on the pitch, though, they're the 2 best players on the pitch.
Right, I feel like you are right in the sense of Rashford. It's just my recency. I've been really frustrated with him. Ashbeck Serb Hat says we needed someone like Fred yesterday in midfield. I'm going to be honest. We've missed Fred, and you know Fenerbahce are unbeaten since he's gone.
That's a lot.
Like honestly, we miss Fred. We really do. And Zidane Brown says, I'm so tired of Eriksen slander. You guys scream he has no legs. Ten Hag stands, Mount doesn't trap runners. Amrabat, he won't play for a full 90. I really like Eriksen, but I like Eriksen in the role where he comes on at 60 minutes.
He has no legs.
He's so good at coming on and influencing the game when, the energy's died down a little bit. If you're playing from the start, I think you lose him throughout the game.
But City doesn't die. City never died. City didn't even get out of first, second gear. Like
it's like a training game for them.
They played to the 95th minute or 100%. So him coming on, I honestly don't think that was Eriksen's game. Really, I don't think he would have made a big enough impact. Amrabat should have played the whole game, in my opinion.
I do, but maybe it's fitness. I honestly don't know. Yeah. Ian J. White, what happened to rotation? I mean, come on, it's a team here. Bruno looks burnt out. Freshen up does help. Why buy Mount? We don't use him. I expect him to start, but I'm sick of heads dropping. Lack of fight. Anthony needs to grow up. Like seriously, you could drop any player, even if it's a star player, for one game. We're playing 2 games a week, and people won't even bat an eyelid. Yeah. I mean, I don't know why he doesn't do it. I hope on Wednesday we see a different team. Patrick says, what if Ten Hag is asking Bruno and also Casemiro to be direct and try and find Rashford? Bruno playing totally different football with Portugal. Interesting points. And the fact we are saying we miss Fred again is. We shouldn't be. He's playing for Fenerbahce, no disrespect to Fenerbahce, but we shouldn't be missing him. That's the situation. We're in a dire situation. Right, let's get one more caller in. Jordan B. Jordan, are you with us? Jordan, are you here? So you want to talk about breaking down the attack against City. Why did we struggle to do this, in your opinion?
You compare the 2 teams, you compare City and United, and in that final third, City was so composed. They found the gaps, they found the passes. I see what Ten Hag was trying to do on the counter-attack, but the confidence was so lacking for Højlund and Rashford. Rashford last season was taking every shot he could get, and nowadays he's looking for the pass which isn't needed. He just needs that confidence back. He needs to score a few goals, get that in his head that he can do it again. And play it that way. Because at the moment, I tweeted it the other day, it's a case of like when you download a game, the first 99% goes so quick, but then at the very end of it, you're waiting for the rest of that to actually finish it. So I just think he needs confidence back, but City were a better half. I think we competed well in the first, and then as per usual, second half, heads drop, and it all goes downhill from there.
Yeah, I completely. But the bit breaking down City, I wish I had like a little screamer I could just like show the game, but
we're working on it.
But one thing that I would say is I think the value of pressing when it comes to teams like City is so crucial, because they've got players who are so technically gifted. If you give them any more than 2 seconds on the ball, they're going to find a pass that you didn't even realise was on. And I think what pressing does against City, even though they can play very well out of the press, is it makes them have to take their first option, which means that they might not take that riskier pass, which is going to break down our whole midfield and defence. So if you press, to be fair, like I said, Bruno is good at pressing. Rashford at times is good at pressing.
Yeah, Rashford is not.
Okay, he's not good at pressing.
Højlund's good.
Højlund's good at pressing. We do have a couple players that are good, but what that does is it means that City they have to play better than they normally would have to, which means they will have to take riskier passes and maybe have a mistake. And when they have a mistake, that's when we can kick them on a counter-attack.
I completely agree, because that did happen a couple of times actually, and we didn't make it the most out of it. But at the same time, I was watching that game and I was literally tearing my hair out, because I was thinking, Bruno's actually pressing well on the right, Højlund's doing his job at centre forward. All they need to do is look over to the right-hand side, and they're going to get it to Walker, because Rashford does this half-arse press that you're just going to be able to bypass, and Walker did that numerous times. Yeah,
so I think that's how. I mean, I'm not no coach or anything like that, but I feel like that's how you kind of beat teams like City and like Arsenal. You make them have to take their first or second option, because realistically, the way they play is they're supposed to have 2-3 options regardless. That's how Pep kind of sets up his team. He overloads the ball, so they've got a lot of options. But if you're making them having to play quick, it means they're more likely to make a mistake. And the fact that we're not pressing them and we're walking around means that they just got so much time on the ball. A player like Rodri or a player like Bernardo Silva can just run around the pitch and do what he wants and just create any pass and any opportunity, which is why they ended up walking the ball into our net pretty much. Yeah,
I mean, frustrating. Jordan, I wanted to ask you about Onana. Obviously had a lot of criticism at the start of his Manchester United career. Probably the only player that could leave his head held high yesterday, even though he conceded 3 goals. Are you feeling a bit more optimistic about him now, or are you still concerned? What are your opinions?
100%. I think he had that switch after the penalty save against Copenhagen. He just looked more on it. But the goals that we conceded, they were not down to him.
No.
I think previous callers said that defenders need to do their roles. But as you've said, Beth, without Varane, without Martinez playing, we're very limited. And I think you said as well...
Even Luke Shaw is a left-sided centre-back as well.
Yeah.
Class.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I think you said as well, Mordz, that Ten Hag hasn't got the players that he wants to pick. But my counter-argument with that is he bought Mount, and Mount is sitting on the bench.
Anthony, 90 mil on the bench.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just... I want to see him play more, but at the same time, I don't see him dropping Bruno anytime soon due to the captaincy. But without them risks, you won't know. I don't think Bruno and Mount together work. I think Casemiro, Amrabat and Bruno and Mount, I think that would be an interesting one to do. But in regards to Onana, I do think that he'll find his rhythm. I do think he'll be a top-tier goalkeeper. He just needs to be consistent.
Yeah, I mean, that header he saved against Haaland was like... Do you know, from Onana, obviously, I really wanted him to come in, but I can't lie, start of his career, I was very, very worried.
Yeah, you were scared.
I was scared when he started at United, and I felt like every time the ball went near him, I thought he was just going to let it in. Yeah. But yesterday, in the second half against City, I don't know, I was pretty confident that he could take shots and he was going to save them. So that's the start of, hopefully, him
good things to come.
Building out. And I think, I honestly think he'll be successful. I think he, even though we lost yesterday, showed what he's actually about. And do you know what? 23rd in Ballon d'Or, it's just been confirmed for Onana. The only player of our whole... Is he the only player of our squad that's in the Ballon d'Or rankings? He must be. Obviously, Inter Milan getting to a Champions League final was crucial in that. So, my keeper's in Ballon d'Or rankings. Won't be for much longer. Now he's at Man United, do you know what I mean? But thank you, Jordan, so much for calling up. And interesting to say you'd want to play Bruno, Mount and Casemiro. I think that's too open, but interesting stuff. Thank you. I mean, I used to want to play that midfield, but it scares the life out of me now, our team. I feel like I have to go and play like 11 defenders.
I prefer Mount, Amrabat and Casemiro. That for me is a good midfield. If Bruno wasn't to play, them 3.
I'd like to play Amrabat, Casemiro, Bruno as a 10 and Mount on the right.
Do you not think that limits his abilities though? Yes, he's being forced to play on the right.
I think he can play in the half space. I'd like to see it. We'll do another show on that. So Dan Brown says the Ballon d'Or ranking are out. No Rashford or Bruno, but you lot want to build a team around them after winning a trophy. Mind that and getting 3rd. Yeah, and everyone's hounding our keeper out, who's 23rd. I'm joking, guys. I understood the criticism.
I'm pushing that out when I get home. 23rd, yeah.
Yeah, crazy. But everyone, look. To our callers, thank you so much. Some great calls today, as we would expect, and it's depressing, obviously, that it's after the back of such a bad loss, but to talk to you guys and involve our community is always great. And thank you to everybody in the comments as well, super chats and all the community getting your comments in. It really does open your eyes doing these calling shows, and it makes you think about loads of different aspects.
Yeah.
And Mordz, class again, and thank you for being on too.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon, I'm sure. But thank you, everyone. Have a lovely rest of your day. Remember, exclusive coming from the United Stand, the 8 p.m. show with Mark. 6 p.m. on the United Stand Twitter. Go and follow the Twitter account there to make sure you go and grab that. Hit a like on the video if you're enjoying these call-in shows on your way out, and have a lovely rest of your Monday.